Once an emerging star looking to take the reins of an entire NBA franchise, until misery struck him in his early 20s. Today, we remember it as one of the painfully true stories of a promising young star in NBA history. What happened to him? A whole lot. Here's the story of former NBA player Eddie Griffin. Let's get deep into this, but before going straight to the content, here is the brand new information on the channel is that 3 lucky winners will get a chance to win PS5. Only you have to comment your views on Eddie Griffin's story in the comment section below. Let's start today's topic. When Eddie Griffin was selected with the 7th overall pick in the 2001 NBA draft, he was expected to come in and change life for a franchise. The Houston Rockets would be the team Griffin made his anticipated debut for. Griffin possessed all the skills of a dominant big in the NBA. He had great size, standing at a lean 6 feet 10 inches tall. He was a strong and versatile big man who was appreciated for his keen defensive abilities and smooth offensive game. For the time, he was a pretty great shooter for a man his size. For some time in the NBA, Griffin flashed greatness. The Rockets were beginning to recognize Griffin as the franchise's newly established cornerstone piece that would consistently help lift them to contention in a few short years. And they had every reason to believe that, considering just how well Griffin played in his rookie season. In his rookie campaign during the 2001-02 season, Griffin averaged a modest 9 points per game, but allied impressive marks in the blocked shots category, swatting away nearly 2 shots per game, and he shot a quite formidable 33% from the three-point line, which by 6'10" standards is great. He was doing this in just 26 minutes of action each night. Griffin was only 19 years old in his first season in the NBA, so, while the Rockets were excited about their exciting young player, they realized they would need to give him some time to develop into the great player he could potentially become. The young Griffin backed the Rockets' patience with him by showing bursts of dominance in his rookie year. During his first season, Griffin became only the 8th player in the history of the NBA to make 100 three-pointers and record 100 blocks in the same season. Think about just how great that sounds. Just think about how valuable it was for the team in the early 2000s to have a near 7-footer that was smooth and as capable of a long-range stroke as Griffin possessed. To hit 100 three-pointers was great for anyone in the early 2000s, but a big man doing that? The Rockets appeared to have snagged a steal during the draft night in 2001 by acquiring the young stud via trade. But some of the things that were brewing behind closed doors slowly started becoming an issue for Griffin. He was dealing with a handful of mental demons away from basketball. After his quite potent rookie season, Griffin didn't produce the second season the Rockets had hoped he would. Griffin's numbers declined across the board. His scoring average took a hit and his rebounds and blocks were down from the previous season. That fluid three-point stroke he enjoyed in his rookie campaign didn't look the same in his sophomore season. The Rockets weren't too worried about their potential young star. They shrugged it off as a customary, sophomore slump, that you see countless players go through. Griffin would work hard in the following offseason and come back bigger and better than ever. At least that's what the Rockets had hoped. Come the following season in 2003, things didn't seem to be on the upside. All the mental demons that Griffin was consistently battling were beginning to seriously impact his performance on the court. And because of these issues Griffin dealt with, he ended up missing the entire 2003 season. He didn't suit up for a single minute of action. No one knew why Griffin missed the entire 2003 season, not even the Rockets. So Houston gave up on their young talent by releasing him before the start of the 2004 season. The news stunned Rockets fans. Fans, of course, weren't sure why their young star took an entire day off. But they certainly weren't on board with the idea of cutting ties with a player that showed much promise in his first season as just 19 years of age. The Rockets, sensing the off-court issues Griffin dealt with, wanted no part of a continued relationship. The Minnesota Timberwolves were relatively quick to jump at the opportunity to sign Griffin. So, they did just that before the 2004 season was underway. The Timberwolves were already a friendly young team that featured stars like Sam Cassell and Kevin Garnett. Garnett, being the great young player he was, would predictably cut into the amount of action Griffin would see. Things weren't the same for Griffin. There were still questions surrounding his issues off the basketball court, and people still wondered about his strange absence during the entire previous season. Griffin's role would predictably not even be remotely like what he had going for him in Houston, where he was more of the focal point. The Timberwolves were a winning franchise that had all their pieces in place. Griffin was bought in primarily as an auxiliary piece that would help round out the roster. In decreased playing time, Griffin put up quite pedestrian numbers and was no longer considered one of the potentially great up-and-coming young players in the league. He was just seen as your regular role player. Griffin's career would only hit more and more lows. Shortly after the 2004 season, it was discovered that the 22-year-old Griffin was suffering from extreme depression. Additionally, it was realized that the reason Griffin missed all of the 2003 season was that he was partaking in weeks of treatment for clinical depression. Hearing something like that is gut-wrenching. Here Griffin was at just 22 years of age battling severe mental tribulations. There would be numerous times following the 2004 season Griffin would miss team meetings and practices, and from time to time, he would go completely ghost, disappearing out of nowhere and not telling anyone where he was. It was also soon discovered that Griffin was dealing with an extreme overdose of alcohol. Things were just getting out of control from here. The Timberwolves, although relatively patient with Griffin, were growing tired of the entire sideshow that was Griffin and his battle with depression and alcohol overdose. He tried getting help. He even had teammates attempt to counsel him, but nothing was nearly enough. In early 2006, Griffin had multiple run-ins with police and law enforcement. He even had an instance of a DUI-related car accident. Somehow, someway, the Timberwolves held on to Griffin until the start of the next season. He even managed to stick around for 13 games until the organization had enough of the troubled Griffin. He was out of the league now. Just 4 years earlier, he hoped to help turn around the Rockets franchise and showed promise as a cornerstone caliber piece. Now, he couldn't evade the personal issues that effectively ravaged his career and his life. If you thought things couldn't grow direr for Griffin, the worst was yet to come. In 2007, he was arrested multiple times and was even charged with assault. Realizing that his life was reaching an unfixable level, he again tried to seek more help. But nothing was, unfortunately, able to ring true with Griffin, who was still a very young man at the time. Then would come the heartbreak. The story that helped make his entire life and career just a story to learn from. In the summer of 2007, during one very late night, it was reported that Griffin ignored a railroad warning sign and drove his vehicle through the railroad crossing intersection right into an oncoming train. So frightening to think about, even to this day. His vehicle exploded on impact and Griffin's life was taken immediately. He died on the spot. In a later autopsy days later, the report revealed that Griffin had a blood alcohol level of 0.26, which was more than 3 times the legal limit in the state of Texas. Griffin's life and legacy were far too short-lived. He died at just 25 years old. The story of Eddie Griffin is a persistent reminder of just how vulnerable the psyche and mental grit can be of a professional athlete. Some players have used their position as sports figure to entice an even greater legacy. But in the case of Griffin, it appears that he came into the league battling with personal issues that probably stemmed from his days before entering the NBA. These often include the makings of a brutal childhood. Who's to say that Eddie Griffin didn't have a particularly traumatic childhood that contributed to some of the extreme mental setbacks he battled? As his time in the NBA wore on, things grew direr. And there's probably a true reason behind the demise of Griffin. While didn't jump off TV screens as a set-in-stone game-changer like a LeBron or MJ, he had the capabilities of becoming a nice player in the NBA with a real future. Eddie Griffin is now remembered for having his own sad what-if story. A story that all of us can take a cue from. So what do you think of Griffin's painful story? Do let us know in the comment section below and get a chance to win a brand new PS5. If you enjoyed watching the video, do like and share, and yes, don't forget to hit that notification bell. Thank you so much.